So Skeleton Crew ends, and it was fine. A lot of the stuff people complained about the show didn't bother me as much as some others did. I could see their points and stuff like that, and some of the things were kind of stumbling in the show. You could have done this better and that better, but overall, it was a fine, fun, cute show. And turned out a lot better than I expected. And then again, that also has to weigh into it that I, after going through several terrible Star Wars shows, had to expect this would be really bad. So the lowered expectations really helped the reaction to it. But that said, each episode as it came, and looking at this and that and the plot points, and that they actually had a story that they went to. It wasn't just a bunch of posed scenes pretending there was an overall story and plot and whatnot. Had its own story unto itself with the mystery of AT-AT and stuff like that. There was a few details that looked like teases for something else and wasn't resolved. My guess is this yet another thing of, gee, I hope we get another season. There's just got to be a better way to maneuver things like that. I understand, and if it pays off and you get that other season, it all makes a really good overall saga of this particular story. But he really it becomes more complete unto itself if you don't get the chance. But that's the nature of the business. So the old pirate whose name I'm forgetting, but nevertheless, the one whose ship they ended up traveling around in that was buried on AT-AT, and he had sought out AT-AT, and it was very mysterious as to the identity of that character. And all that's left is his ship and his robot, which I took to mean that he settled on AT-AT. And I thought the most obvious candidate for this would have been Wim's father, but that is not the case. Not really spoiling everything other than, hey, they win. And everything's fine for the most part anyway. But it's just the way they presented the holographic tape of him, revealing the treasure and all this sort of stuff. And it was all very, the face is, there's really no face at all. It's all very obscured as to who this guy was or whatnot. And so I thought, oh, well, that's a definite tease that there's more to this, and he may even still be alive and so on. But I guess that's a tease, and hopefully we're hoping they could follow up on it for another story, because for the most part, the story of the children and running into Jude Law's character is pretty much complete. There's a tease about Jude Law and his backstory and stuff like that, and I could easily see a spinoff for him, because this guy can carry a show, can carry a film. This is, and it's a shame. And that's the feeling I had through the whole thing, and the ending changes nothing. It's a show that's too little too late for the overall brand, and the overall brand is its own destruction, deliberate destruction of itself, is to blame for shows like this that did deserve a chance, but we're not going to get it because the Star Wars audience had been burned so badly so many times. And so here comes this show that was a cute little show. It doesn't deserve, to be hated or anything. There's nothing to hate or anything like that. And I don't see that it does any damage whatsoever to Star Wars overall, like quite a few others. The big one being Last Jedi, of course, but a lot of the Acolyte and all the stupidity there is just, of course, by the time you get to Acolyte, everyone's like, that's it. That's when it was done. No, it was done already. I guess because it had all lightsabers and Jedi in it, that got some amount of interest. And all it did was get hate watched. And then here comes poor little Skeleton Crew, and everybody just, never mind. So it's sad. One can only wonder And of course, you try to be objective in reviewing these things and stuff like that. And in this case, I would think I'm doubly so, because I wouldn't have bothered if I hadn't been a part of Doomcock's Wednesday show. You know, I don't think I would have even given it a shot, because Star Wars is done. I don't think even a great movie cannot save it. They're banking on Mandalorian movie, and even if it's this breakout success, that's not enough. And eventually there is such a thing as too late. And it's just, ultimately, I feel sorry for this show. It's sad. And that's all there can be said for it. And so you can always wonder, what lens would you view something like this if Star Wars was healthy? If the sequel trilogies had just been okay, and they'd be in great shape, And of course, the other shows would have to do much better than where they were. Because even through the lens of, the movies weren't all they were kind of okay and stuff. Let's see what this is. And then you get something like Kenobi and well, what the hell? That wouldn't cut it. But a show like this, as simple as it was, probably would have done a hell of a lot better if it was surrounded by a healthy brand, of which it's a part of. But that's not the case. So you can only guess at that, And it's again, just sad. It's not quite, but it's similar to when I watched the Ms. Marvel show, part of the MCU on Disney Plus. A show I had no interest in, other than it was part of Marvel. So I was, okay, I'm going to watch these Marvel shows at the time, and a lot of the bad movies hadn't quite come out yet, and see where this is going. And I had, of course, again, very low expectations. Never liked the character in the comics. It was a forced tokenized character and all that sort of stuff. And so I expected just, woke scripts and whatnot for this character that was, for all intents and purposes, created in service of wokedom. And yet the show was not bad, and a couple of episodes were pretty good. The girl's charming, and she managed to carry this show. It's like, as far as I know, it's one of her first acting gigs, and it was fine. And in the end, I felt sorry for it because I knew nobody was going to watch it. And this is supposed to be a lead into the Captain Marvel sequel, which became The Marvels, and you could see how that turned out. But the Ms. Marvel show is leaps and bounds superior to that movie. And so it was already not quite where Star Wars is now at the time, but it was in a tarnished brand, if you will, because it's supposed to be attached to that Captain Marvel movie, which eventually became very despised despite the money it made. But of course, the circumstances lends to that, being in between Infinity War and Endgame and all that. But it's a perfectly fine show. There's really nothing there to be that upset about. And it had its little cute moments, and it was kind of like a superhero sitcom type of thing with it. So similarly, you have this cute show of kids, much younger than Ms. Marvel, but nevertheless still kind of this cute, almost sitcom in space type thing, but not over the top to that point. You had some pretty serious adventure moments here and there within it, and I enjoyed the show a lot more than I expected, and that's why it's so sad. Because it's trapped in this sick brand. I was going to say dying brand, but I think it's dead. So I just feel sorry for Skeleton Crew.